Sure. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you all for joining us here today. I'm Melanie Crandall with Camio, and we wanted to bring together this group to discuss a topic of growing interest in the fitness community. The pandemic only seemed to accelerate an issue that many gyms face today: unauthorized access, also known as tailgating, piggybacking, lots of terms. People who enter clubs without badging in or paying guest fees undermine profits and also jeopardize the safety of members and facilities. So just as gyms are turning to software to help with management functions, from billing and scheduling to memberships, software that uses AI and existing cameras are helping gym owners protect profits, people, and their property. So I'm joined today by Luther White, founder and president of Energy Lab, owner of 2 Massachusetts-based clubs; Kyle Redder, owner and president of Redder Tech, an IT and security solutions company that specializes in working with lots of gyms; and Carter Maslin, CEO and co-founder of Camio. So I think we each bring a different perspective on this issue, but the best way to provide some context and to start this off is to have Carter give a very quick demo of how AI is used to detect unauthorized access. Seeing it in action is the best way to understand how easy it is to use, how the basic technology works, and how we can address the problem of unauthorized access using standard cameras already installed at your gyms, enhanced with AI to detect unauthorized access and even more. So with that, and please excuse my sniffling, I seem to have caught a cold, so
Okay,
hand
well,
it over to Carter.
yeah, it'll only take 1 minute so we all have a visual of what we're talking about when people say tailgating or unauthorized entry. So the quick example is, like, if I just wanted to look in my own front door, just show me every unauthorized entry in the last 10 days. I can say, show me unauthorized 10 days ago to now, and it instantly shows every time there was a mismatch between the badge-in count and the people that entered. So if I look at one of these, I can see that Mason badged in at 2:29, and I'll just click on this to skip to that point. And you can see he opened the door, but then a whole bunch of people came in. And I know Luther well enough where if this is like 4 teenagers following the one that paid the membership, it's going to get his blood boiling. And so basically, behind the scenes, what the AI is doing, because AI is in the headlines now, is it's basically just segmenting and tracking people. So this is an illustration of what is happening behind the scenes. A legitimate person badges in, and then he secretly follows her as a tailgater. And I'll pause it when it turns red here, just to show what the computer's doing behind the scenes. It's basically segmenting the people, meaning out of a whole 2D image, where are the humans? And then it's looking at where their feet touch the floor so that it doesn't get confused between her being inside this glass conference room and outside the glass conference room. And then it's simply counting, how many badge-ins did I get? I only got 1 entry unlocked. How many people passed through the door? 2. So that's a problem. And that's what triggers the tailgating that we saw in this query. And then basically, you can get dashboards like this one from Luther's club that'll show the rate of tailgating by different times a day. So you can see, like, at 1 p.m. Pacific, he's got 2% tailgating out of those entry unlocks. So that's a quick demo, just so everybody's got a visual. There's more that we could talk, but it's basically using your existing camera images to know where people are, count them, and report that there's a problem. And that one thing that I didn't show is that you can even notify them directly, saying, hey, your credentials were used to enter the gym. Did you intend to have a guest? If so, here's the guest fee. So anyway, that's the quick visual demo.
Thank you, Carter. Now that we've seen how it works at its core level, Luther, I think our audience would love to hear, as a gym owner, how you use Camio. I know that you initially chose it during the pandemic in order to stay open longer and accommodate members 24/7, and I think even for mass detection, that sort of thing. But how has your use of it evolved, and just, yeah, fundamentally, how are you using the technology, and what problems does it solve for you?
Yeah, so we use Camio as an engagement tool. You know, with everything that transpired with the pandemic, we were forced, like most gym owners, to really create efficiencies with the expense structure and limited our front desk staff while working to try to solidify entry for our guests on a 24-hour cycle. And we were really trying to determine, how do we continue to remain engaged with our members when our staff isn't there? And so we looked for a partner that not only was an expert in their particular space, but was willing to listen to us, was willing to understand what we were trying to accomplish. Because it wasn't a matter of just guarding a door. It was a matter of really understanding what our members needed, what their usage looked like, and how do we protect the environment for those members that were engaging with us.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, you told me an interesting story. I mean, I think that we all recognize that, okay, you can earn ongoing revenue, right, by collecting those guest fees that otherwise wouldn't come in. But you had an interesting story from an angle I didn't think about, which was really providing better service to your members. You had a theft of a weight belt or something. Maybe you can just expound on that.
Yeah, I think as you kind of look at your business, our business model has always been convenience, experience, and results. And the experience is paramount. And when you don't have an active engagement with a front desk member, what does it look like when that client walks through the door and the club is not staffed? And what we've been able to utilize is protecting members in terms of whether it's theft of personal items, theft of property, dumbbells, 1 pound weights, 5 pound weights, destruction of property. We see so much, and it's really the 1 or 2% of our population that create the issues. But what our camera system and our partnership with Camio has allowed us to do is not only strategically understand exactly who's in our club at all times, but now be able to take that timestamp and now look through different camera angles and determine who broke this piece of equipment, who stole this particular item. And it really protects our customers. And when I talk about engagement, now when we're circling back with our guests, we're circling back with a purpose. Listen, I know that you checked in at 2:15 yesterday. I noticed this, this, and this. And they're blown away. Wow, somebody's actually paying attention. Somebody actually saw that. And so we've noticed an increase in our members calling us saying, hey, can you help me out? My weight belt is missing. I'm not sure what happened. I think someone stole it. And in that example, a couple of days ago, it took us about 6 minutes. We got on the camera system. We understood when they checked in, and we immediately identified who stole their weight belt. And we reached out to the person that did it. They were shocked. We connected the two. They got their weight belt back, and we tried to kind of navigate this community. But it eliminates a lot of drama. It eliminates a lot of second guessing. We have this philosophy, protect this house. Well, when there's accountability involved in protection, now all of a sudden the members feel safer. They recognize that leadership and ownership is engaged even though they're not there, and they respect that. And as we start thinking about some of the areas where we're trying to increase our own revenues, they say, hey, this particular organization is investing in our security and safety, and they're giving us access when all of the competitors around us aren't willing to do that. So yeah, let's protect this house.
Great. And then switching gears slightly to something I touched on, the revenue side. I think it'd be interesting for the gym owners here just to hear how you handle that, like the fees and notifications, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so our organization is stemmed around service. We love people like most of the folks in our industry, but it's about serving our member. And that comes at a price. And I take it personally when someone engages our facility that has not paid for our services. I view it as theft. And there's nothing worse than someone coming into a facility that's a stranger, that's not part of our community. They're utilizing our equipment, they're breaking equipment, and possibly or potentially stealing equipment. And so what we've set up is we've had the innocence where somebody wanted to open a door and leave a door and be kind and let somebody in. And we've trained our members. Listen, protect this house means everybody has the access to come in. If somebody doesn't have access, do not let them in. And what we've recognized is we'll call back, 1, 2%. There was an incident that happened. We reviewed on film. It wasn't a tailgating. One member was helping another member. But again, it's an engagement call. But from a revenue perspective, we saw a wide open club where I would just drive in at 10 o'clock at night. Hey, what's going on? And next thing you know, you got 40 people in your gym and you got 6 members. And you're thinking to yourself, what kind of business is this? This is crazy. And that is translated every now and again. I do my sneak checks and I'll get 1 or 2. And at that point, they either join immediately or we do a trespass on them. And it's not a matter of us being very difficult or sticklers. It's protecting our population. We recognize typically about $1,100 to $1,500 in gross or revenue every month from tailgaters. And again, I'm not proud to collect extra money, but we're protecting this house. And so what will happen is the people that are breaking the rules, that are letting their guests in, we charge a $35 fee. Our clubs are typically $29 a month. So you can imagine a $35 fee is pretty steep.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're sending the message. We want you to join. Don't take a guest pass, because when you join, you're part of the community, and then you accept and take responsibility to protect the house. And so it's been extraordinary. So we'll stay on top of it. In terms of our staff, I've heard stories. I've talked to other previous gym owners. They say, well, my manager reviews footage. No, they don't. It's impossible. When a tailgater enters our facility at 11 o'clock at night, our staff, our leadership team gets an email and a text. So if we decide to act upon it, we can act upon it immediately, or we can wait till the next day, but we have that choice. We don't have to worry about reviewing 12 hours of footage. I couldn't imagine wasting that much bandwidth on that role. In this situation, we typically spend about 15 to 20 minutes on a busy day and no time on a regular day. 4 days a week, we'll review the tailgating. But we know today we have 3 tailgating issues to confirm. Yesterday we had nothing, and we'll celebrate those instances.
Yeah. Yep. After all, it's about deterrence too, right?
Yep.
So, okay, switching gears a little bit. Thank you, Luther. Kyle, from your perspective, working with gyms day in and day out, getting them hooked up with technology and ways to help, do you see the demand increasing for this type of automated tailgating detection? And if so, do you think that demand is driven more by clubs moving to 24/7 operations, or to boost revenue, or just fundamentally to help make facilities more secure? I'm just wondering what you're seeing out there with the clients you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as they hear about Camio and it's a very cost-effective solution, they're all about it. Other hardware out there that does similar things, it's very expensive. You're talking $3,000 to $5,000 just for the equipment, and then an ongoing subscription. And then you got other areas where you can put turnstiles in. That's even more cost. So as soon as they hear about it, it integrates to your existing cameras, access control. It's a no-brainer for them, and they're not really using it for revenue. They just want, like Luther said, they just want to be protected. They want to protect their members. So it is an increase in service.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a key point there. It's the ability to work with existing cameras, and it's a software-based solution, right? So there's a one-time deployment that generally takes 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You do need someone IT savvy, like a Kyle, or someone else to help. But once it's up and running, it just runs. You get your alerts. There's no hardware. There's no any sort of upgrades and new features. They come to you automatically. So,
correct. Right. And most of the time, we don't even have to send anybody out, because we can, like I said, we can use the existing system, and we just send the hardware to you guys. And I help you guys install it yourselves. It's just power and an Ethernet cable. So it's a super simple setup on physical installation. And then the backside that I do, it's maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. It just depends on how their IT structure is. I've ran into some that are a mess, and I have to sit there, remote into their computer, hunt down the IPs and figure out what's going on in their network and find the camera. But that's what I specialize in. So it's a super, I mean, I think it's an easy process just because that's my realm. But yeah,
we haven't heard too much feedback about it being complicated, but
one of the things that I'd like to insert, when we are researching this, one of the challenges we have in our industry is we get stuck with vendors. And if we invest in hardware and the whole process, trying to switch or add vendors becomes very cumbersome and very expensive. And what we love so much about Camio is, first of all, they are the leaders in that space. but they didn't require us to buy new cameras and a new hardware system. They came in and said, listen, this is the technology that we have. We can piggyback on most anything. Let's see what you have and let's plug and play. And so we were able to establish a relationship with an industry leader without having to reinvest in equipment that we had already purchased. And our hardware experts are doing their thing while Camio is doing their own. This isn't a one size fits all and one company can give everything. It didn't work that way. And we've been so grateful to have a separation. And so when there's an issue with one of our vendors, it doesn't bleed over into another vendor.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's so many access control systems too, just like gym management systems. So we try to, we have existing, Camio has existing integrations set up, but we can also try to work with those that we don't, and through open APIs and other means to get integrations. I mean, that's really, Camio was founded on that principle of openness, open technology. And so that underpins kind of everything that we do. So speaking of that.
Yeah, one thing we could address questions as they come in. There's one just saying, how do we know who's a member? That's a great question, because one of the top concerns that we've had is like, can you do this without violating laws against facial recognition and biometric storage and things like that? And to just clarify, none of this is predicated on biometrics or facial recognition. It's not actually identifying a face to a person. It is literally just counting people and comparing that to how many people actually badged in. So the short answer is we don't know which of the two people necessarily are the member. But if you didn't, I'll re-demo if you joined after the demo, but you can click to the exact timestamp that they badged in. So you can see as a human that at 12:32, that definitely was Mason who put his hand to the reader. But from a technology perspective, there's no biometrics or face recognition to know who that person really is. It's like a human correlating it with the timestamp and what they see.
And what we do on our end is, like a lot of clubs, you go to a member's file and there's no picture on file. Well, that's a problem. And so we make sure it's a priority that every single member has a picture on file. So when we now go back as part of the engagement, we're notified, hey, there was a tailgate. We look up the member that scanned in and we have their picture. And you look at the video and you can completely determine quickly, that's this person that is, and sometimes you find out, wait a minute, that wasn't a woman that just checked in. And then you got a different problem.
Yeah. And going back to your question, Allison, I think there's a badge ID associated with, so it integrates with the access control. She's asking, how do you know who is a member?
Yeah, I'll just, because she might have joined after we did that quick demo, I'll just show this one tailgating incident to show what I mean. So we know Mason Pierce is the one that badged in at 2:29. So if I click on 2:29, I can see that this is the person that let people in. So it's just by the correlation with the timestamp.
So in that situation, we automatically charge Mason $140.
And all that, just to clarify, all that information is being pulled over by your access control system. So like with some of them, you get your CRM, some of the integrations, the CRM is here. It's got all the data, your email, your username, your ID. That gets transferred over, creates your, say if it's OpenPath that you have, it creates their credentials in OpenPath email. And that's what Camio is integrated to. When a tailgating incident happens, that information, that email and the time and all that stuff gets posted to Camio. And that's how they know who the member is. It's all through the access control.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Another question just came in about, is there any value to using this for immediate protection against violent trespass from vagrants? Yes, Camio, and Carter, maybe you can expound on this, but unauthorized access detection that integrates with your access control provider is one solution, but you can also put Camio on any other camera to be able to alert you to problems such as vagrants and Yes.
Yeah, basically you can be alerted in real time via an email message in the simplest form, or you could have a Slack channel, for example, that posts messages. If you were to say there's somebody in a restricted area after 2 a.m., that's highly unusual. I want to know, you can set up those. And the nice thing is, whatever it is that you're looking out for, you can make that into an alert.
And again, maybe it didn't sink in because you went through it a little bit quickly, Carter. And a natural language search is what drives those. So you can say, let me know anytime there are more than 4 people loitering outside the front door, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And pin that. You just click a button and you literally that activates an alert each time that criteria is met. So yes, and we really didn't talk about it yet, but you can also use Camio on cameras throughout your club to see equipment usage and occupancy in certain areas. If you want to, I talked to one club that was interested in using Camio to see how many people actually use their childcare facility, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle, I know that you've set up schedules. If you don't mind just giving a quick overview where people wanted to be alerted certain times, but not others.
Yep. So a lot of our clients, they have staffing hours. They're not, and they don't want tailgating to be detected because the doors are open and unlocked. So we simply just put a schedule in there so it records only during your non-staffed hours, and it helps because some access control systems also, like with OpenPath, it's wave to unlock features, may sometimes grab somebody's credential from their phone while it's in their pocket. So we don't want those coming through during staffed hours, and then staff members complaining like, hey, I'm getting these tailgating alerts and it's staffed hours. So we apply those schedules and it's super easy to apply.
Yeah. Okay.
And then one of the things, if I could add to that in terms of staffed hours, because when we first installed the system, we had a similar situation and we decided to go with a locked door the entire time. And it was totally against my service concept, but we trained the members and it alleviated a lot of need at the front desk. So now our staff members in the club, when we were staffed, were able to focus on engagement rather than door watching.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind. It seems a little different than, well, if you're here, why would you have the door open? Well, your members are going to be used to clocking in every single time. It gives you a better read on who's using your facility and when.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And some people have separate doors too. They'll have a member only door and then just a staff door so people come in and sign up or a guest. That's also an option as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we have a doorbell on our door. So if FedEx shows up or somebody wants to tour the facility, they ring the doorbell and the staff attends to them. So it works out very well.
Great. Okay. I don't see any other questions at this point. The only other thing I thought might be good to mention, might have been, is that Camio really is an economical solution, right? It's you're charged by camera or door. So
there are 2 more questions, Melanie, here. One,
I'm not keeping up with the questions here.
So basically one says, don't members have a readable card badge to check in? Yes, that badge in is what got imprinted on the video that we saw where it said, Mason badged in at 2:32. That is basically what comes from that card badge read. And then
I think we covered this one, unless you want to expound on it.
Well, it says, does your existing camera have to already have an integration with your door control system, or can this work with the camera having no existing tie to your door system? And so if you want to detect tailgating, there are certain cameras that can just take IO reading, input output reading from like the thing that knows whether the door is open or closed. So there's not a badging system, but it just knows that the door was opened. And that can trigger an analysis of how many people came through. So I think that one we'd need a little more context before saying definitively, but we have deployed at least one gym that I know that only has a camera, and the access control system isn't talking to the camera, but we know when the door was opened with some kind of credential. It could be, not necessarily tied into your member system, but we might have to follow up on that one. You can contact us offline, I guess.
Yeah, normally, if just to add a point, normally the camera system and access control are two separate systems. They don't, what ties them together is a Camio box that we install at your facility. So they don't have to be like the same brand or same integration or same vendor, I guess. Like some of the like Verkada or some of the other camera systems has their own access control system. This is completely separate. So even if you don't have a camera that's pointing at the door, we can install standalone cameras just for that tailgating capture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we leverage our app, so we don't have an access card for 90% of our members. They log into our app and they do it electronically, like you would use for your Tesla or some of these modern cars. 10% of our clients who are the flip phone senior silver sneaker members, we do have an access key fob for them, but the vast majority are using their iPhones or their Androids. They're clicking it and they're coming right in.
Yep.
Got it. I think that we already covered that question. Okay, and since we're talking technology a little bit, Kyle, what do you see as the barriers to adoption for this type of technology? Do you think it's just a lot of gym owners aren't aware that this technology exists, or they're intimidated by it might be difficult, or just curious how you see that?
From my experience, it's just gym owners don't know they exist. And that's I'm partnered with Camio and I'm trying to help them get that word out. So any clients I have, I mean, a lot of these gym owners, they have more gym owner friends. So we're trying to get that word out organically from my side. Because like I said earlier, once they know it's out there, or I've just gone on Google and searched for some gyms and just reached out to them that way, like, hey, do you know this exists? And I send them example links and they're calling the next day saying, hey, that is awesome. Can I learn more? So it's just, people don't know that it's out there. Some people may know that there's other systems that do it, but those systems are, like I said, they're very expensive. They're very hardware eccentric systems. So the cost is very high. And that's where
And sometimes the ease of use is not really there, and that can be difficult.
Well, Melanie, I would answer your question in twofold. I think there's one, accountability, and two, confrontation. I think a lot of gym owners don't want to come to the reality that, listen, people are stealing from you and you're not willing to admit it. You better figure this out in a hurry. Or their managers aren't paying attention. They're not doing their job. So they're not really accountable to their business. If you can track it, you can measure it, you can improve it. Unfortunately, not a lot of people want to improve things. So they don't do it for accountability purpose. The confrontation, well, what do I do if I find a member that cheated me? Approach them immediately. It's relationship. It's engagement. And what I have learned, we're in the business of bringing people in the club, but I let people go. I say, thank you, congratulations. You can join another gym because we can't service your needs. Mm-hmm. I don't want a member that's going to come into my facility that's telling me up front, I'm going to steal from you, because they're going to kill our facility. They're going to destroy our equipment. They're going to be rude to other members, and you completely implode your own community. So if you can get over the accountability side, okay, hold on, this is going to force me to make some decisions. Yes, it is. And then the second is, it's going to force me to create a little conflict with certain members. Yes, it will. But the benefits are so outrageously overweighing those two things. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's from my perspective, and the way when we bring on a new client, we actually have a full like member awareness template, email template that we send to them, like, hey, this is a great tool that you can use. Send it out to all your members. Just give them the warning. Because when I first started almost 2 years ago, it was just you hitting a wall. Like, people didn't know it was coming. So that's why we created some of these other tools to get the word out there, the members involved. and just
Right.
prepared for the new system coming in.
And in those emails that go out, and I think we talked about this, but a feature of Camio is you can have an email automatically go out to the person who allows the tailgater. And you can put that in the language that's appropriate to your club and be very polite, but
Yep.
just like you said, Luther, to help protect the club for everyone's use, please be secure and help us. And yeah, so that's
Yeah,
kind
we've been on this now for almost 3 years, and we don't do warnings. We send an email, we automatically charge. And 30% of those emails, people will call us up and we'll take the charge off. No problem. We're having a discussion.
right.
But let's be fair. A warning is catching somebody doing something. This system works. We don't get accidental tailgaters. Now, we get people that did something they shouldn't have done, but this isn't, well, it's our fault, the system didn't work. Oh no, it worked. And so what we've noticed is by eliminating the warning, we're going to charge them. And again, for the few members that call us up and say, hey, can you do something? You know what? Absolutely, we can. We just want to make sure in the future you don't do this. Most of them are like, yeah, they got us. Okay, just pay the fee. Okay, move on.
Yeah, normally part of our installation as well, after we're done configuring, we usually upload a warning email template. So for that first week that it's live, it helps us to adjust some of the configurations as well. So we get feedback in. But that first week we give warnings to all the members. And then after that, there's no more warnings. It's usually just straight charging. So that we try to do everything we can for the implementation, just so the members are aware and know the process and can get adapted to it.
Yeah. Okay, we had another question come in about using this at scale. If you have over 50 locations using it, how do you keep up with the volume? So
just I'll answer on the background where this tech, we pleasantly discovered the gym market from Luther. He is the first person that said, I have a problem you might be able to help us with, because this operates at scale, hundreds of times bigger than 50, because we use the same technology for corporations that have, fulfillment centers in 14 countries with, 20,000 employees that are badging in at a rate of like 8,000 a week, so it's basically already built for that scale in terms of being able to show you, here are the tailgating incidents in a chart. You can click on a point in the chart and see them. And then the alerts are just the ones that are tailgating. So out of, let's say 100 badge-ins, you may only have 4 tailgaters. And so that's a manageable number in terms of information overload. So even at 50, there'd be no problem, unless every member's tailgating, and then you've got your entire membership to review. So that could be a case. But
and what we love about the system is it is scalable. And so we have one person that's responsible for both clubs. And so as we navigate our system, you can leverage your leadership team. And so you're not bothering the team that's physically in the club. You have someone that's managing the entire system. So whether you had 2 clubs or 50 clubs, their job is to make sure they take care of it and stay in touch with your members. So it is so scalable. It's so simple.
Yeah. So some of our franchises that we do, one franchise has 20 locations, and each their franchise, we set them up in one. There's multiple ways of doing it, but essentially we set them up in one group, and then each owner or franchisee, they actually take the responsibility for their own clubs. And then at that point, I think most of them, each location has an operator. So most of the time that operator is given the responsibility, like, hey, do this daily. It takes 5 minutes to review the tailgating from last night. It's a super simple process. And then that's how they manage it. One person doesn't have to look over 50 clubs. Like it's super simple to train a manager or operator to do that daily task.
Or if it works better for your situation, like Luther said, you can have, as Carter was saying, we're used in big security operation centers where it's one person kind of managing multiple.
Yeah, I agree with Kyle. It certainly works that way. One of my pet peeves is I have to have an exceptionally clean club. And I know we're always balancing expenses, and I could pay somebody to sit at that front desk and watch the door, or I can have someone engaged in cleaning the club. And what I love and members love is seeing us clean. And so rather than paying an hourly wage to sit at that door and watch the door, Camio does that. That handles it. And the person in the club is cleaning, attending to members' needs, and we're really leveraging and creating efficiencies through this system.
Yeah. So if there aren't any more questions, I thought I'd like to pose a question to everyone here, and maybe to you, Luther. Like, Camio really works on any camera to give context to the visual data, right? And what that camera is recording. So what can we do next? Are there problems that can be addressed with visual sensors and data that aren't now? If that makes sense.
That's a good question, because I always dream big. I mean, we touched upon it briefly with fire exits in areas and parking lots, hit and runs, members' cars get broken in, trying to figure it out. I think, like everything else, when I think of Camio and our relationships, how do I improve the service to my member? How do I make them safer? How do I create more efficiencies? And so I love the ideas of off-limit areas, whether it's your maintenance areas, helping our staff do a better job with their checklist and cleaning the bathrooms or cleaning the showers. And I think the Camio system could help us if we tried to integrate some of those. But I think the whole process is about how do we leverage scale as it relates to the expenses of our human capital? Because as we move forward and hourly wages continue to rise, as business owners, we cannot continuously project that cost onto our members. There's only a limited amount we can charge for membership. So how do we take technology in a club that already has existing cameras and now start using those cameras for more than they were originally designed?
Right. I think that's a big part of it, is just unleashing you've got a lot of power sitting in that camera, right? If we apply that software on top to be able to tell you things that matter, And
I'd add to that is what I have enjoyed the most about the relationship with Camio is just that. When I pick up the phone and I call Carter or I call someone and say, here's my need, the first thing they do is listen and try to understand, okay, well, let's figure it out. And if I call some of my other vendors, well, you don't need this, or we can sell you that because we have this, and here's my need. And when you have that type of relationship, it's awesome, because all of a sudden now you're being able to be the innovator in your particular space and your community, and you're offering things your competitors aren't. And we've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So
well,
appreciate it.
Yes, likewise. But also, I think too, and if that's a need for you, then you can bet it's a need for others out there. So it behooves us to really listen, and then we just keep expanding what we offer. So we can help with some of those other things. So anybody have anything else to add that we kind of didn't cover? Carter, anyone here, or any other questions?
No, I know this was all focused on the unauthorized entry and the safety and service associated with that. But if we're just blue skying, the things that I'm excited for is just like, hey, text me when there's a swim lane open, or hey, text me if there's a treadmill open. And all of that is feasible now, because I think part of the excitement is you can think of a camera as nothing other than just like a visual sensor that can tell you stuff about the real world without having to wire everything up. And so it's just interesting to me, whether it's like the tennis court availability or the swim lane or the whatever, that could in the future become kind of an expectation. Like, yes, I appreciate that. So that's future.
And along those same lines,
what's that?
And along those same lines, we've toyed with this. We haven't quite felt completely comfortable, but there's opportunities where our members can have access to certain views. Hey, is the strength room crazy now? They log on to their, no, it looks pretty empty. Let's go.
Yeah.
It depends upon where you want to go with your community. But what I would encourage people, because I'm the old guy on the deal as it relates to just technology, embrace it. Because if you really understand it and really allow yourself to say, we're here, how do I leverage this? You'll be able to pay attention to the things that are important, engaging your member, communicating, building relationships. Let the technology handle all the stuff that really nobody really wants to do, and they're not doing it.
Well, and the advances on the technology side, whether it's artificial intelligence or whatever, have made it affordable, and easier, right? I mean, Carter's background is he came from Google. And so that's why everything is just like typing in an internet search box. It's just super easy. And that's been a real mantra for us all along, is just making it easy and simple to use. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, maybe that wraps it up. This will be recorded, or I should say it is being recorded and will be available. So, and if anyone wants to get in touch with anybody here, Camio, Luther, Kyle, questions, outreach, anything, just please let us know.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Great seeing everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.